Hi there. So for this month of February, the video is much later than I wanted it to be. I wanted to talk to you about how to identify compound nouns and adjectives. This whole unit is about hyphens. And so let's look at the lesson. So the lesson is saying that hyphens are used to form compound nouns. So for instance, a word that would normally have two words separate that they don't have a relation to, but you are creating a relationship to them. So you're making it into a noun. And so if I say grow, like grown, like the flower had grown in the garden, that would be a verb. And if I said I would like to go up the tree, then that's a preposition. However, grown up, when you mash them together, means somebody who is older. So I want to be a grown up someday, and that makes it into a noun. So English is so frustrating because there's so many weird, wacky ways to make up new words. This is one way. We hyphenate them or create a compound noun. So Andy felt strange when his grandmother called him a grown up in front of his friends. Or Damon and I were planning a get together. So I want to get some eggs and I want to have, I want that chocolate milk to be together with my bagel. That was a random association. Next weekend, but if you have a get together, that's a time, place, and period in which you are going to meet up, and therefore makes it a noun, a time to get together. If you have a check, then you might want to look into it. If you have something in something, it's going to be inside of it. But if you have a check-in, that's probably going to be something that you are either going to go to the doctor for, or as in this case, asking my cousin to do a quick check-in after lunch. So even though it might not be hyphenated, you can still have a compound noun. So like for instance, Grady forgot to follow through with his promise. So like for instance, follow through. Grady forgot to follow through with his promise. How do I describe that in another way? Grady forgot to complete his promise. If you can replace it with something and it's not compound, then that would make it a verb and a preposition, therefore, or a verb and an adverb. Therefore, you would not want to make it a compound. If it can be replaced by two words or one, that can help you identify. Let me give you an example. Hyphenate compound adjectives that they come before nouns. So like for instance, this is an artist. What kind of artist? It's a well-respected artist. You can replace that with one word going beloved artist. If you can replace it with one word, then you have a compound noun or compound adjective in order to describe that noun. So like for instance, this actor is the highest paid. You can say the richest actor, and it's replaced by one word. And so therefore you have a compound adjective. Usually you don't hyphenate compounds that come after nouns. And so like, for instance, if you look, you say well-respected artist, that comes before the word artist. That artist is well-respected. The word is actually breaking up that compound and therefore makes it into two. So that's a rule too, is if you see a noun and the words are in front of it, you will have what we call a compound noun or compound adjective. So hyphens can be sticky, messy, and I don't want you to get too frustrated. So we're going to go through this slowly. And so there you go. The bad-tempered armadillo growled at Tom Holland. So the noun is in bold, and it looks like we've got a hyphen. So just select the compound adjective. I think that's it. it's bad and tempered, but together it makes a bad-tempered armadillo. So that is a compound adjective. Okay, so is the bold text a compound noun or a verb and a preposition? So remember we talked about this, is if it's in front of a noun, then you might have a compound noun, or if it's a compound adjective, you might have it in front of the noun. By itself, when it's by itself, you might not. So Daniel Kaluuya plans to drink all 6 milkshakes that he bought at the drive-through. So drive-through, restaurant, I could replace it with one word, restaurant, and therefore the drive-through, it would be replaced with one word, so I think it's a compound noun. Unless I'm driving through the park, I restaurant the park. No, that doesn't work. So that can also help you. Meow Meow needs to check up on the tomatoes she planted last month. Is this a compound noun or verb and a preposition? Needs to check up on, needs to look on the tomatoes. I think it's a verb and preposition because I couldn't replace it with one word. The toad who slept in Phil Dunphy's closet was well behaved and quiet. Select the compound adjective that describes the noun. The toad? What toad? Well behaved. Well behaved are 2 words. And remember, we're not going to always see a hyphen, so just don't get tripped up on that. But the closet was good and quiet. So I think that's the compound adjective. Rafiki likes to drive through the forest. Remember last time we looked at drive through, we replaced it with the word restaurant. Likes to restaurant the forest. No, I think that's a verb and preposition. All right, let's try 2 more and then I'll let you, we'll go on to the next module. Sheldon Plankton greets all his guests with a joke when he works at the hotel's check-in. Check-in. Hotel's desk. I think that's what they mean, so I think that's a compound noun. I need to follow up with Luke Dunphy about our trip to Norway. I need to follow up. Follow-up compound is an appointment. So I need to appointment with Luke Dunphy. I think that's just a verb and a preposition. So we're back and we're going to look at hyphens in compound nouns. So hyphens are used to form those compound nouns. So it's always nice that you'll know that hyphens, if there's a hyphen, it is a compound noun, if it's correct, that is. And so you'll find that when you have 2 words with a hyphen, that makes it a compound noun. And if you have 2 words that are meant to be one and you don't see a hyphen, it's still a compound noun. So I just want you to be very careful. Sometimes the hyphen is supposed to be there, sometimes it's not. And you just need to know, can you replace that one word with another single word that would replace it? So, so in the dictionary, they will say haircut is one word, toothpaste is one word, and weekend is one word. I really cannot explain the etymology of that at this particular time, but I just want you to be aware that haircut sounds like it should be a compound noun, and yet it is one. However, if you check and in, or follow and through, or get and together, those are going to be hyphenated. And so you're going to have a check-in, which is usually an appointment. Follow through, which is usually going to be a promise, or get together, which is also another word for date. So if you can replace those two words with a hyphen, you can replace it with a one word. It looks like you've got a compound. When there's words like high and school, day and care, and waiting and room, those are two words. And that's just the joy of English. So I do apologize for how confusing it can be. Even though words are hyphenated as compound nouns, they may not be hyphenated when used in other contexts. So Grady forgot to follow through with his promise. You could say Grady forgot to adhere with his promise. That's also possible. Courtney wants to get together to discuss. Courtney wants to hang out. Well, hang to discuss. So you can replace it with one. You might have probably do have a hyphened or compound noun. The question of whether to use a hyphen depends on context. Usually, if it's right before a noun, you're going to put a hyphen in front of with the two words you've mashed up together. And yet, there are times where you might want to, depending on the context, you might want to add a hyphen. Um, in terms of a missing or insinuated noun. That last sentence, Eric says, good interviewers not only have initial questions, but great follow ups. What they mean is great follow up questions. And so if you added the word questions after it, yes, it would sound repetitive, but that's what they mean. So you would still add the hyphen in front of it. Grady forgot to follow up with his classmates. That does not mean compound. It means that he is going to check in on, and so therefore you don't use a hyphen. Use hyphens to join words that function as a single noun. So like for instance, most common you're going to find like sister-in-law. Sister-in-law hyphenates those words to make it into one. So we've got three different words, but we're going to mash it to describe one person. A merry-go-round, those all words make sense by themselves, but when we combine them with hyphens, it means a specific kind of ride at the park. And free-for-all, again, those words mean something separate, but together it means wild uh, party, unchecked craziness. All right. Okay, so do we need to hyphenate or not hyphenate? After 3 straight days of burgers, Simba would eat anything that did not come from a drive-through. Now remember, driving through the park, it means that someone's in a car and they're driving in a certain direction. But I don't think that's what they mean. I think they mean the word restaurant. So if that's what they mean, because I'm looking at the word burgers, then drive-through would mean restaurant, and therefore we would hyphenate it. Sheldon Plankton took a part-time job. So job is a noun. And so we are going to describe what kind of noun it is with a part-time, because that's the kind of job that it is. So I think it's supposed to be hyphenated. Since we're going to drive by her house, we should return Meow Meow's cheese slicer. I think they mean cruise next to her house. Cruise next. Now, a drive-by can also mean a cruise as well, but it's usually considered a noun. You don't want to do noun her house. You want to do a verb. So we're going to say drive by her house. I'm taking a little more time with this because this one can be very confusing and frustrating. So I hope this is not driving you crazy by me taking a little bit more time. After Copper showed us his pictures from Hawaii, my mother-in-law wanted to travel there too. My mother-in-law, that all needs to be one hyphen because that's a specific title. And so I'm going to put them all in hyphens. Okay, I'll do one more and then I'll pause the video and go to the next module. While she hated to be an old stick in the mud, Gloria Pritchett knew jumping on the bed was a bad idea. Stick in the mud. Ooh, yeah. So like for instance, stick in the mud kind of would be another word for a old bore. And so if that's the case, then we're going to hyphenate it because we can replace it with one word. There you go. So the same idea that's going to be with adjectives as it is with noun. And so remember that the adjectives are going to define the noun. Um, and so if the adjective comes after the noun, you're not going to hyphenate it. But if it comes before, it's going to be hyphenated. And remember that an adjective describes that noun. So a compound adjective it acts as a single description of that noun. I talked to a highly respected doctor today. Highly means that you don't hyphenate it. It's a weird rule. Let's just go with it. And so, what if I said well respected? I would hyphenate well respected, but highly with an ly at the end means that you don't. And the reason why is because this is an adverb. And so, adverbs, they describe the adjective. So, we're not going to hyphenate something that's not similar. We want to do those adjectives as in well and respected or beautiful. Oh no, that's the wrong one. I don't even know. Highest and paid. Forgive me, my examples are eluding me today. so hyphenate well respected if it comes in front of artist. I think we've already gone over all of this, so let's get into the practice. It's the same thing as the nouns, but this time we're going to be looking at how the adjectives modify the nouns. I'm going to skip over the tutorial and let you do that on your own, but for this video, we're just going to go over what these are. So, for instance, we have a store, which is a noun, and so if there's a word like well off, we're trying to say that the store is wealthy, doing very well. So we want to hyphenate it because it's right in front of a noun. So we're going to submit that. So the athlete, well-rounded, and the athlete's described as well-rounded, which is another way of saying has variety. Then we're going to hyphenate that right in front of the word athlete. Whenever Meow Meow picks a seat on the bus, a slightly better spot always opens up. And so, because it's in front of the word spot, which is a noun, and slightly better, it's going to be hyphenated. Oh. Oh, that was very much my mistake. Let me try to get out of that. All right, Thor is dressed up because he's modeling in the fashion show. We do not hyphenate that because it was not in front of a noun. The bird can be described as reddish brown, so we do hyphenate that. See, I make mistakes too. When Pumbaa met the best known shark researcher in the world, he had to get an autograph, the best known. So there we go. All right, we'll do two more. After Rafiki gave his dog a badly needed bath, it ran outside and rolled in the dirt. I think badly and needed, I think that is describing. So needed is an adjective, badly, and I forgot we don't hyphenate those ly words. That's why. Christina Miles is well known for her origami skills. We don't hyphenate if it comes after the noun, so I think it's the correct way. So there we go. This next module is going to be very nitpicky. So I highly recommend having two tabs open. On one is the rules and on the other is the practice. The reason why is because there are some specific rules that you do need to follow when you're dealing with grammar and hyphens. So for instance, you can hyphenate a t-shirt, x-ray, U-turn, and V-neck. Those are words that you'll be joining because the capital letter comes in front of the word. So T comes in front of shirt, therefore you make t-shirt. If the letter comes after the word, then you do not hyphenate it. So type A or type O or page 1, those words and letters, they do not get hyphenated. If it comes before the word yes, after the word no. You do not hyphenate when you use the word percentage or percent. So percent, 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 you do not hyphenate. But you do hyphenate any of the compound numbers that are put together. Like, for instance, I'm a 41-year-old teacher. So 40 and 1 would be combined with a hyphen to indicate what number we are dealing with. So numbers 21 to 99 will be hyphenated. This one's very, very specific. I just want you to be aware that you are more than welcome to have the lesson open on one tab, the practice on the other, so that you can know. All right, we just went over the numbers 72. We have to make sure that 70 and 2 are hyphenated. The letter X comes in front of the word ray, so we are going to hyphenate. We do not hyphenate when the word percent comes after a number. And one more. V-neck sweaters, the letter comes in front of the word, so we do that as a hyphen. This one is very, very just minutia. I want you to be aware of it so that when we get into high school and college, you'll know that this is a rule. Do we always remember it? No. If you forget it after next year, at least you learned it one time. It doesn't come off very often, but it's good to know. This next one is also going to be just as about the minutia. So for instance, this is about math, but when you have simple fractions like 2/3, 4/9, or 3/4, then you are going to hyphenate those two letters. Sorry, two words. But you have to be very careful that you distinguish between the whole number and the fraction number. So like for instance, she has finished 7/25 of her summer reading. And so that means that there are 25ths and she's read 7 of those. So I just want you to be aware of that. So like for instance, the number, I didn't mean whole number, I meant the number on top, numerator. Don't tell Demona or Nancy that I'm so terrible at this. You will not hyphenate phrases like 3/4. For instance, Nick found 3/4 on the sidewalk. If you give me 2/4, I can buy some chips. So like for instance, quarters would be money instead of fractions, what you're talking about. There we go. You're going to hyphenate simple fractions. I think we've covered all of that, so let's get into practice. Asked to borrow 1/4. Well, that means one money, so we're not going to do fractions. He'd already memorized 3/5 of his piano piece, so then that's going to be fractions. Managed to sweep 3/4 of her house before the guests arrived. Daniel Kaluuya decided to give away 2 25ths, and so the numerator does not get hyphenated. The denominator, 25ths of his birthday present. Cameron Tucker's family had finished 23/3 of the pie. 23/3 of the pie. I think that's right. Unless Simba has 3/4 in his pocket. I'll do one more and then I'll pause the video for the next module. Jay Pritchett reads at least 3/4 of the book. So there you go. All right, so this will be the last one that has to do with minutia, little rules, but this has to do with when you use the word year old or years old. So like for instance, if your noun is a girl and you want to describe her age, you would say a 9-year-old girl. That 9-year-old would be hyphenated because you're modifying or describing the noun girl. However, yeah, always comes before the noun. And so if you are not describing the noun directly, as in the noun comes after the description of its age, then you don't hyphenate it. So when Priscilla turned 11 years old. So we don't say an 11-year-old Priscilla, we say she turned 11 years old. You would not hyphenate that. Any numbers that are going to be like what the last one was, which is you are going to do numbers mashed together, then 20 and 1 would still be hyphenated because that is the rule is 21 to 99. So now we're going to start to incorporate a few of those rules into one example. So this man is 21 years old. 21 still gets hyphenated because 21 to 99, but we don't say the 21-year-old man. So we don't hyphenate the whole thing because it's not right in front of the word man. Luke Dunphy asked the 53-year-old for advice in his short story. 53 is a word, numbers 21 to 99, and it's not coming in front of a noun, so I think it's going to be hyphenated 53 only. Oh, well, I was wrong. After the chef turned 60 years old. I think that's right because it's not coming right before the word chef. Timon's teacher turned 80 years old, so he threw a surprise party. 80 years old. Okay. Enjoying her day off, Lily Tucker Pritchett went apple picking with her 73-year-old neighbor. The neighbor is a noun, so we're going to hyphenate all of those because it comes before the noun neighbor. When he became the first person to solve a 96-year-old riddle. Riddle is the noun. It's going to come right in front of that riddle, so we're going to hyphenate the whole thing. Peter Millark hopes to live to be 99 years old. 99 is 21 through 99, so we still hyphenate years old. The 35-year-old told Patrick, the 35-year-old. I think the whole thing gets hyphenated because it's a subject or a noun. Until Christina Miles is 65 years old. 65 gets hyphenated, but I don't think year old because it comes after Christina Miles. And I'll do one more. Tom Holland threw the 99-year-old a birthday party. Since 99-year-old is the noun or the object of the sentence, I think I hyphenate the whole thing. Again, feel free to have your rules on one tab and your other, your lesson on another. So. All right, I'm going to pause it and I'll come back later. We're on to the last two modules, and so we are going to look at hyphens with prefixes and suffixes. Prefixes are those modifying words that come in front of a noun. Suffixes are modifying words that come after the noun. So Greg showed great control by not eating the last cupcake, but we added the word self to that, and it makes it a prefix. And so Greg showed great self-control. Self-control means the same thing, but when we use the word self in front of control, we want it to be one noun, and therefore, well, actually adjective. And so therefore, you're going to hyphenate it. Awareness, self-awareness. If self goes in front of it, it's considered a hyphenated word, self-explanatory. You're also going to do it with the word ex. So like ex-marine, ex-wife, ex-governor. You're going to hyphenate that. When you use the word all, so all new, all around, all knowing. So there's some instances. There's some instances where you do not hyphenate the word all if it's not part of the word. So Jeff's friends are all new to the school, which means there's no noun coming after it. So therefore it's not like an all new show. Or you could say Jeff's all new friends are at the school, but we're not. It's coming after the noun, and so therefore we do not hyphenate it. You could say it in another word and put the word all in the front or in another spot, and you can modify it. If you can do that, then you don't hyphenate it as well. All of Jeff's friends are new to the school. Again, you just don't compound or you don't put a hyphen if the word is not describing a noun. So I just want you to be aware of that. When Claire Dunphy heard about the mid-December baking contest, she decided to sign up as a judge. The baking contest is a noun, so we are going to hyphenate it. Prophecy is a noun. Self-fulfilling is describing the prophecy, ergo, we hyphenate it. Haley Dunphy learned some new dance moves by watching a video from the mid-1980s. I do believe we hyphenate this because it's describing a specific time in the 1980s. SpongeBob SquarePants lounged on the deck all day in a bathing suit. So we do not hyphenate it because you could do all day long or at another time, and therefore it does not make it a hyphenated word. I'll do two more. Because Thor's friend is an all-star swimmer. Swimmer's a noun, so all-star would describe the noun, therefore it's hyphenated. After his volleyball game, Cameron Tucker ran into the president-elect at the drinking fountain. He ran into the president-elect, and that sounds like one word. That's the noun, so I think we're actually going to hyphenate it. I could be wrong. Oh, yay, I was right. So if it's either describing the noun or becoming the noun, you hyphenate it. We're at the last module for this month, so we're going to do hyphens for clarity. So you might need to use hyphens to avoid confusion. So if they have a different meaning, then you're going to have to hyphenate it. And so like, for instance, you can say the word recover, or you can say recover, whereas recover means to return to a healthy state. With a hyphen means to cover that sofa up again. So you just have to be aware. Do you mean the original meaning of the word, or do you mean to recreate two words and make that into a different meaning altogether? So this one's going to be a little bit of a doozy in terms of whether or not that's supposed to be one word or if it's supposed to be a compound noun. So if you need to, I highly recommend getting a dictionary out at this time online, opening up a tab, using that word. If you don't recognize it, plugging it into the dictionary and saying, okay, is this what it's supposed to mean in the context of this sentence? Or do they mean to create a whole new meaning and context by creating a hyphen? So you use hyphens to avoid awkward spellings with repeating letters. After missing his free throws, Conrad asked for a do-over. And so if I did those without hyphens, it would sound asked to do it over. It would make some confusion. So a do-over in a hyphen actually replaces the word um, or the phrase ask for another shot. Alexis is a co-owner of the new restaurant. So Alexis owns or helps own the new restaurant. And so that's going to be very helpful in understanding what you mean in terms of using hyphens. So, like for instance, we know the word co-owner is supposed to be hyphenated, and so Mitchell Pritchett became the co-owner, so we know that we have to hyphenate it. And realizing that the ink was too faint, Simba had to resign or re-sign his friend's birthday card. Now, I know the word resign means to quit. Re-sign means to have to sign it all over again. So I think we have to hyphenate it because I don't think that they mean they're going to quit the birthday card. Whenever he thinks it's going to rain, Thor makes sure to recover the outdoor furniture. Now, recover means um, to resurrect or to make anew. But he thinks it's going to rain. I think he means that he has to cover it again. I believe that's what it means. Okay, does mean to cover again. Cameron Tucker stayed up late doing research for his latest novel. Research without the hyphen means to do studying up on or looking into. I think that's what he means. I don't think he's trying to search all over again. So I think research is one word. Yay. Eugene Krabs tried to repress his urge to eat the entire box of chocolates. Repress means to not do that because you just want to hide it. Or repress with a hyphen means you're pressing it again and again. I do believe he means trying to hide it, trying to hide his urge. All right. I'm going to do 2 more, and then I will leave you to do your own work. Accepting that he enjoys politics, Copper helped with the campaign to re-elect the mayor. Re-elect goes hyphenated because we're creating a new word. When he couldn't find his left shoe, Daniel Kaluuya had to research his bedroom for it. Okay, this is the one where you have to search over and over again. Okay, so that's what we're doing this month. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.